The Walking Dead spin-off about Daryl Dixon can be seen in one of two ways, depending on the viewer. On one hand, it's a tight-knit, intelligently written, well-acted, decently paced, and directed show about a beloved character from a once popular franchise. On the other hand, it's a confusing, lazy, inconsistent mess with talented actors playing dumb characters in a universe that no longer makes any sense due to no plans for an endgame. Was this show any good? Sort of. I started this show reviewing by episode, but after episode 3, I decided to watch it through and see if it was actually worth my time. And I can confidently say that I didn't absolutely despise my experience with this show. However, that's not really a praise. I think this show is competent at what it wants to achieve, but that doesn't make it Shakespeare. Light spoilers from this point on. Tune out if you don't want any important details to be spoiled. I think this show is good enough for you to watch and make your own opinions on it, but here's why I don't think it's perfection. Now, after making episode 3's review, I forgot to mention that in episode 3, Laurent is revealed to be the son of Quinn, that British douchebag drug dealer guy that was in the underground lair. That was probably an important detail that I skipped out on. I must have forgot. I have no idea how I forgot that. The plot, however, goes off a series of switcheroos and your typical Walking Dead separation tactic where characters split up to make things superficially more complicated than they need to be, probably to extend the runtime of the show. The villains are this military force known as the Power of the Living. And I say Power of the Living because I don't know how to say it in French. It's something else in French. I don't know how to say it. They're a pretty decent villain group that challenges Daryl and his friends in new ways. Unfortunately, they are as incompetent as they are egotistical. They kind of remind me of the CRM in World Beyond, which makes me concerned for the Rick Grimes show, but that's for another video. These military guys, the villains, they bring in walkers and test on them, making them super walkers with acid skin. They're faster, they're more aggressive, and in some cases genuinely more terrifying than regular walkers when they run at you. But they're up against Daryl Dixon, so it's only a slightly more difficult challenge than regular walkers. Speaking of Daryl, he does go through a bit of a character development when he's faced with the choice to leave France and go back to America or stay and make a new family with the people he's met in France. Thing is, that was development that should have been spread out over the course of the series and not something just jerry-rigged into the final episode. I'm not going to lie, Isabel and Quinn's stories were so boring and, other than the sense of betrayal going on between them, I had no real investment. Isabel stays with Quinn so Daryl and Laurent can escape Paris, and you're left to wonder if she's going to kill Quinn. That was the whole thing, is you're wondering if she's going to betray or kill Quinn and behind the scenes there. I really didn't care for that storyline, to be honest with you. I was not invested at all. Eventually, Quinn is betrayed by the villains and is forced to be chained up with Daryl in a fight pit, which makes him do a face turn and have a redeemable conclusion to his story. A pretty decent job at a character development for a character I won't remember the name of, to be honest with you. Laurent was an interesting idea as a de facto messiah in the zombie apocalypse. Given his whole identity is based around the ripoff of The Last of Us, he has the weight of criticism weighing on him. However, the young actor handles the role with maturity that a lot of young actors don't have. That being said, Laurent is an annoying little shit that makes a lot of dumb decisions, but they're mostly character-based decisions that aren't entirely unreasonable for a child to make. The whole Messiah thing gets dropped by episode 4, which is a good thing because the further they strayed from the idea, the less believable it became. Daryl and Laurent have a father-son type relationship, but it's a lot of outside characters that try to force that idea where it doesn't belong, and it seems like they're really trying to keep Daryl in France as a result. By now you're wondering, how did Daryl even get to France? That's the biggest question that everybody has. How did he fucking get to France in the first place? In episode 5, we find out he joined a hunting crew while he was still in America, where somehow assholes were still alive, working as zombie hunters for pay. They get paid in food and fuel to capture walkers. This group operates under strict rules, and if you break them, I guess they just kidnap your ass, because we see Daryl fight a guy and breaking the rules as a result, And then the next scene, he's being forced into a cargo container on a fucking boat. The boat has all the hunted walkers getting experimented on by the military villains from France, the Power of the Living people. There's an obvious CRM connection, but there's no obvious evidence that they are involved. It's a lot of loose connections to the CRM. Daryl breaks free and causes havoc on the boat, as you'd probably expected, given what we saw earlier in episode 1. It was an awesome sequence, and it wraps up what we were wondering about in terms of how Daryl got to France. A nice little Easter egg is also shown when Carol contacts Daryl through the walkie-talkie before he's imprisoned on the boat. Carol asks him over the walkie-talkie where he is, and he's like saying, he's off hunting for these hunting people. But here's the interesting part. While Carol is talking to Daryl over the walkie-talkie, she mentions a mystery person has returned to the group. Is it Rick? Is it Morgan? Is it Negan or Maggie? Don't know, because the walkie static cut off the conversation like a cornball-ass screenwriter wanted us to take the jangling keys as bait. More on that in a second, but I'd like to bring up Caudron, the French Negan military dude with a face tattoo and a vendetta towards Daryl for killing his brother. He joins forces with all of the show's villains, and when Daryl escapes the fight pit, he tracks him down and holds him at gunpoint with armed men surrounding Daryl, Laurent, Isabel, and what's her name was. You'd think a guy like Caudron would kill everyone in this scene immediately, but for some reason he hesitates and ends up killing his own men instead so that he can pull a rain check on killing Daryl for later. What's his reason? The men wanted him to kill Laurent first. Somehow that was enough to make Daryl's plot armor thicker because he showed no signs of turning like this before, and it was a drastic change from what we saw just one episode earlier when the dude was like, "Daryl, today you die."
Dixon! Today you die! For my brother!
I thought that was a pretty fucking dumb decision. By the end of the show, Daryl has a choice to leave France or stay. He chooses to stay because AMC is intending on having a season 2. Fuck. In a final clip, we see Carol go looking for Daryl in the last place he was spotted in America, teasing season 2 called Book of Carol. Please no. Like I said, this is a mixed bag, but it's not terrible. I didn't hate the show, and even though there were definitely subtle woke messages in it, it's not a woke show overall. And it shouldn't be judged as such. There's a lot of shows that are like that, by the way, and a lot of movies that are like that. In fact, the use of religious themes was a welcome touch, but could have been utilized a little better to make a more compelling story. For a first season, it's not bad. But I'm not sure a season 2 will be as good. I'm getting tired of consuming Walking Dead TV to hold over my Rick Grimes hunger. I want them to get to the fucking point already. I want there to be a finale, an end game to the franchise, and so far it's just more running around and doing busy work. The Book of Carol is literally the worst name for season 2. Naming shows after characters is a dipshit idea as is, and now season 2 is named after 2 characters. Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol. Ugh. Carol is basically doing what Daryl was doing. Rick gets lost, Daryl goes to look for Rick, Daryl gets lost, Carol goes to look for Daryl. This is a stupid cycle that needs to end now. Pronto. Also, stop making the kids in these shows borderline unlikable. Laurent is an exception because he's a complex character with a specific background, but the Mary Sue kids that kill walkers at 9 years old is unrealistic, and the insufferable teenagers from World Beyond that can't kill a goldfish is annoying as hell. Somewhere between those is Laurent, which confuses and frustrates the hell out of me. I'm willing to be optimistic about The Walking Dead's future, but it's exhausting being a loyal fan to a dead franchise. Daryl Dixon, the show, was definitely a fun watch, and I think if you're still hanging on to this franchise, then it's worth watching. If you're just tired and want to get to the fucking point, maybe skip this one and watch The Ones Who Live instead, or don't watch any of it. It's really your choice, because they're not moving the needle that much. As for The Ones Who Live, Good title. Good title for a Rick Grimes show, at least for now. I have a prediction that The Ones Who Live will end up being the de facto Walking Dead replacement. Because when they took care of Rick, when they got rid of Rick from the main Walking Dead show, they needed somebody to take his role, take his place. Well, then they just canceled and ended the Walking Dead show, and now they're going to have a Rick show, which I think the title The Ones Who Live is meant to be the final crossover for all the characters. It will be the show where everybody comes back together into one place. That's why they don't name it Rick Grimes or Rick and Michonne or whatever dipshit name they could have come up with. Naming shows after characters' names is dumb, like Loki or Moon Knight. Like, some of it like can work for, like, I don't know, Spider-Man, Superman, but that's by specific standards. Like, I'm not, it's so cringe. But I'm holding out hope for The Ones Who Live. If it's dog shit, I'm done with The Walking Dead. Like, I'm just gonna quit. Because I have not been waiting 5 fucking years for a Rick Grimes return to be dog shit. So, AMC, the pressure's on you. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, that's okay. I invite you to go into the comments and check me out, bro. Always do what you want to do. Make yourself happy. Be happy. You know, do what makes you happy. I'll say that 100 times, I guess. Anyways, check y'all out in the next video. Don't smoke crack.